We start off today's political update with news. John Rustad's leadership review has officially concluded after a long summer. The leadership review started in June and has been going riding by riding across BC and has finally wrapped up on Saturday, and we've received the results on Monday. John Rustad has received 70.66% of supporters, and that is 1,000. So there was 1,268 voters, and there's 9,000 members. So it was a low turnout, but he still received 71% of the vote, which is it's substantial, but not very high. And so he won 78 ridings out of BC's 93. He lost 10 of those ridings. 3 of those ridings had tie votes, and there were no votes in 2 ridings. So that comes to an average of 13.6, rounded to 14 votes per riding, which is, as you can imagine, not too high. So here's what he had to say after those results were announced.
Confident that I have the confidence of the party membership to be able to go forward and defeat the NDP in the next election. That's the last question.
So that was his short comments after those leadership results were made public. So he believes he has the support of the BC Conservative membership, but it's yet to be seen if he has the support of the BC Conservative Caucus, as not too many MLAs have come out and said that they support him after this leadership race. And there's one MLA who is definitely not in support of him, and that is BC Conservative MLA Elenore Sturko. She is a high-profile MLA, and she was kicked out of the caucus by John Rustad, and he cited that she was organizing against him and had leaked private information to the media. Sturko is lesbian and clashed with several socially conservative MLAs. Here's what she had to say about the matter.
We are joined by Elenore Sturko, the MLA for Surrey Cloverdale. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Stephen.
How are you doing this morning?
It's a new day. And you know what? I'm going to be honest, it's not easy. It was a very big surprise for me yesterday what happened. I'm still adjusting, but one of the things that's actually gotten me through, you mentioned have people reached out to me, and even though I haven't heard from my friend Linda yet, I have received hundreds of texts, phone calls, emails to my constituency office, and even phone calls from other caucus members. And that definitely helps.
You told reporters that you were blindsided by that meeting that you had with John Rustad yesterday. Can you just walk us through what happened, how it unfolded?
Yeah, I just was asked to come in at 5 p.m., got in there, sat down with John and some of his other staff, our caucus chair, his chief of staff, the whip, and he asked me if I support him. And, you know, I told him that I thought it was actually frankly unfair that he would ask me that before I had an opportunity to discuss anything with caucus. You know, I heard Linda just now in your interview with her, Stephen, say that it was caucus decision, but there was no caucus discussion, including no real caucus discussion about the communications that we had received from our executive about the allegations of breaching the Elections Act in John's leadership, you know, they had signed up over 2,000 manufactured memberships. Some of those people, according to the media, allegedly dead people. And so I said, look, it's not fair to answer that question before we have a chance to discuss it with caucus. You know, and essentially after that, I was told that I was kicked out.
So that is MLA Elenore Sturko's response after being booted out of the BC Conservative Caucus. I'm assuming her references to Linda, and there would be her fellow caucus member, or not caucus anymore member, fellow MLA Linda Hepner, also an MLA from Surrey. So in response, John Rustad also went on an interview with CBC News after this, and here's what he had to say.
Hello, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me on today.
So the decision to expel Elenore Sturko from the Conservative Caucus, was this a caucus decision or one made by you alone?
It was one made by me alone, and the interesting thing is, you know, you just played that clip from Elenore, and she said something very different today on a radio show in Surrey. where she actually said, and these are her words, that she had been campaigning, she had been talking to members of caucus to try to gain support to have me resign. And this wasn't the first time she's done this. She's done this 3 times. The previous 2 times, I sat down, I had a conversation with her. I said, look, let's see how we can work this out. I'm sure we can work together. She's an effective critic. I wanted to keep her part of this team. The second time, she came in and she actually said, are you going to sign my nomination papers? And I told her, I said, and by the way, I had witnesses for these meetings if that's what's needed. And I said to her at the time, I said, that's completely up to you. If you want to be part of a team, if you want to be part of what we're doing as an organization, then I'm more than happy to have you as part of our team. And so now this is the 3rd time that she has done this. And by her own admission on a radio show today, this is why she was removed. And she's right. That is why she's removed. No leader in the country, in any political party, would have somebody part of the organization who's campaigning against them, trying to turn caucus against them, and wanting to have their leader removed.
So that was John Rustad's rather sharp view of the situation. So let's move to the latest polling numbers from BC. We do have a recent poll from the Angus Reid Institute. And for our video listeners, I have a little drawing up here of that poll. So let's start off with the BC Conservatives. Despite all this infighting and having lost 4 MLAs since their election last October, they still have a lead. They have a 2-point lead over the NDP. And in the 2024 BC election, the BC NDP had a 2-point lead over them. So it is a switcheroo for the BC Conservatives. And they are up 1% since the last election, which means the BC NDP have fallen 3% since their election. And they are struggling through mismanagement of the province's money, the lack of funding, and very high, sky-high deficits. So their razor-thin majority is even more precarious right now due to their not-so-great political situation. I'm not sure if they would win an election if the one was held today. So then we have the BC Greens, which are up 2% since the last election, at 10%. So this bump may be due to MLA Lowen's Energizing Leadership campaign, who has nearly doubled the party's membership. And the results of that BC Green leadership race should be announced on Wednesday evening. So tomorrow evening, we should find out those results and find out who will be the next leader of the BC Greens. And then there was a 4th category included called Other. So that would be, of course, all other parties. And I would presume that the majority of that 4% would come from 2 parties, One BC and Centre BC. One BC was formed by 2 MLAs who one was expelled and one quit from the BC Conservative Caucus. And I would say they are more right-wing than the BC Conservatives. And then there is Centre BC, which is led by Corinne Kirkpatrick. And she was a former BC United MLA and candidate. So they have 4% combined. We don't know what the breakdown of that vote is. Either way, that's pretty good for 2 brand new parties, in my view, because a brand new party, it's very hard to build support, and 2% is still many thousands of votes. And so that concludes today's BC Political Outlook update.